Thank you for listening to Interview with DJ Nocturna. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, share, and comment if you like this interview. I'm speaking with songwriter and guitarist and founder of the project Thanatos. I got Patrick Ogle. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you very much. You know, it's so refreshing.
It is, by the way, there's multiple ways to pronounce it. I don't speak Greek. I always say Thanatos. Other people say Thanatos, which is probably closer to correct. And but I've never actually had a Greek person correct me on how you really should say the word.
You know what? I will find out. I know someone who can pronounce that very well, and I'm going to ask her how to pronounce it. All right.
Well, myself, I always tell everybody I pronounce the German car Mercedes. So it's almost certain that I've never pronounced it right. So
how would you pronounce it?
I say Thanatos, but like I said, that's almost certainly wrong. That's almost
Thanatos. Well, yeah. That's what I was going to ask you too. You know, I know that is a Greek word. It's in Greek mythology. It's symbolic of death, and you know, it's been used in so many different things. It was in psychology. It's the opposite of eros, and I think it's Freudian, and you know, it has a lot of meaning to it. But I like it. And I've always wondered who was the man behind this project, because I've been a big, you know, supporter of the Projekt label for a very long time, and I would see your albums all the time. And I know you did you were part of a Christmas compilation album as well, and so I'm so glad you're with me. Thank you for joining me.
Of course, of course.
So tell us about why did you pick this particular name for your project? And I know you've been around a while, for a long time.
We started this project, believe it or not, in the 80s. It was in
I want
to say 84, something like 84, 85. And we had a cassette release. That's Projekt Records started out releasing cassette in South Florida back in the mid 80s. And the Thanatos is a song that we did on that thing. And then many years later, like probably 7 or 8 years later, when we started working together again, and we're going to release the first record, This Endless Night Inside, we didn't really know what name we were going to use. And we couldn't come up with one. So we just picked the name from that song. How I came up with that, the name was from a psychology class I took in college. And it was exactly what you were saying. The term referred to like this collective death wish of the human race. It was the only way that psychologists could explain why did this happen, because it was pointless. The World War I was just pointless. And so millions, a whole generation died. And so that was the term that they used to describe this collective death wish. And for years, I used to say it was a Freudian term. But I did really bad in that psychology class. So it's not surprising that I found out later that Freud never used the term. It was other psychologists. It was not Freud. So that's where the name comes from anyway.
And so so this project began with you and Sam from the Projekt label. Yeah, okay. And then I know that you were also part of Black Tape for a Blue Girl. You worked with him on that as well, right?
I'm on a number of records, usually just here and there. I always forget which one it was. I want to say Chaos of Desire. There's a song by me. And then actually the title track of This Lush Garden Within was originally going to be on the Thanatos record. But Sam stole it from me. He hijacked it because it was appropriate, and so that, and I've been on a few other things after that. There's some guitar parts that he took here and there, but I don't have a real central part in any of the Black Tape for a Blue Girl. I'm just on it here and there. And after Thanatos started putting out records, it was kind of stupid to have me do vocals on Black Tape for a Blue Girl because A, he had a bunch of other really good vocalists, and B, there was Thanatos. So why would we do that?
So how did you guys meet? You and Sam. I know you've been a big supporter of his project for a very long time.
Oh, we've known each other since middle school. I'm gonna say we probably knew each other in he's a year older than me. I've probably known him since I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And he used to run a small magazine, a fanzine, that eventually became a pretty big thing in South Florida. It started out as called Songs from the Wood, which is a Jethro Tull reference, and then it became Alternative Rhythms. And it was a pretty big magazine. Everybody into like kind of, back then it was mostly punk rock and stuff like that, but everybody read it. And so I wrote for the magazine too.
Yeah, and I know you released several albums since 1993 with your first one, This Endless Night Inside, right? And
yeah, The Covered Country is my eighth record.
And I was watching some videos of that you performed live, the Swan song. I like that a lot. Goddamn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never recorded that like in a studio setting.
You should.
And I have a story. Yeah, well, maybe. Well, yeah. There's a funny story about that. And I did a live stream last night, and so I told this story because somebody was requesting that everybody always requests that I play that song. And William Tucker, who after my second record, I wanted to start doing live music, and some people put me in touch with a Scary Lady Sarah, DJ Scary Lady Sarah, and her husband at the time was Eric, who played bass in my band. Put me in touch with William Tucker, who's the guitar player, and Eric actually. Eric, I forget who exactly put me in touch with him, but one of them. And I met him at a Chris Connolly show at the Troubadour in Los Angeles because I lived out there at the time. And so we got together, we started playing, but we used to play that song live. And Tucker also, Tucker played in a lot of bands. He was in, like, especially live, he played with Ministry, Fetus, Thrill Kill Cult, everybody and their grandmother, because he was a fantastic guitar player. Well, one day he was on tour with Fetus, and Michael Girard came onto their tour bus and smashed their CD player, so they couldn't listen to music. And Tucker was pissed, and so he would never play that song again. Every time, whenever we were putting a set together, he just absolutely wouldn't play it. So to be a dick, I used to just go every time. I would go out and play it acoustic afterwards, like as an encore, just because he wouldn't do it. And so that's the story of that song. I don't know why I've never recorded it. It just never seemed right for any of the records I was doing.
Oh yeah. Well, now that you have the country covered albums, maybe you can do another cover albums of other stuff.
Oh, they're good. They're going to be other covered albums.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it. It's really good. I like it. And
yeah.
I just had an interview recently with Ashkelon Sane of Trance to the Sun and Trance to the Moon, and I know you had him in one of your albums as well. You collaborated with him, right?
He's fantastic. I could spend an hour talking about what a great musician, what a great guy he is. I love his music, everything he's done. And I remember when I found out, I was listening some of the Trance to the Sun records musically. Like, I have trouble remembering my 4-chord songs, and he has these songs that are incredibly intricate, and they're like 6 minutes long, and then there's 10 of them, and he remembers how to play all of them. And there's no verse chorus stuff going on there. It's this complex thing that just keeps getting more and more complex. He's on the album I'm Not Job.
Yeah.
I went out to Santa Barbara when I was living in Miami, and we recorded those songs. And I really wanted to do the song Carrick Fergus, the traditional Irish song. And I had also just had hand surgery. So my guitar playing is, nobody's going to mistake me for Jimi Hendrix in general, but when your hands don't work, it's even harder. And I had this version, and it just was not good. And then Ash sat down and just bam. And he did his part in one take, and that's like an 8-minute long version of that song. And I did the vocals, and I think we had one punch in, but he was just he's amazing to work with. I wish his band were on the road more and came here to Chicago, because I would love to.
Yeah, I know they just played in Portland somewhere, yesterday, I think.
Yeah, they were opening for another, I think it was Adult, who I also really, really like a lot.
Right.
They're wonderful.
Yeah,
I don't know them, but I love their music.
Yeah, I would have loved to be there to see that. Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you said about him, he's amazing. Yeah, I totally am a big fan of Trance to the Sun and the new project Trance to the Moon.
Now, the Portland record, he actually lent. I didn't bring a guitar with me, and he lent me the electric guitar is actually his that I play on that, and I use. So
yeah,
he's always helping me out. He's always helping me out.
Great guy. So I know your main instrument is the guitar, right? And when did you start playing the guitar?
When did I start playing? I've played the guitar for something like 44, 45 years. No, probably longer than that. Probably about 46, 47 years. I started playing when I was a little kid. I learned classical. That was my teacher trained us to do the classical fingering and the classical on a classical guitar. And her reasoning, she was a wonder. Her name was Mrs. Fitzgibbons. She was a lovely woman. She was friends with Mel Bay, the Mel Bay books. And every time, she, all these things. And she used to come to our house, and she taught on the classical neck, partially, I think, with the logic of if you can play that, then an electric guitar or a regular acoustic is nothing. And so that's when I learned. And then I stopped playing. I didn't pick up a guitar for a long time. And then I kind of retaught myself using basically the same method she used. And so I'm most comfortable playing rhythm guitar, but I do most of the leads on the Thanatos records, which are rarely complicated parts. I can play a lot of. I can play a mandolin. I can play the bass. I can play. The only stringed instrument I have a problem with is the banjo, because it's well, banjo's an African instrument, so it's a different sort of tuning, and so it's a little harder to get your head around when you're used to the tunings that we're used to.
Well, I just want to say it's so refreshing to hear some great country music. I know you have this covered. It's called Covered Country, and it's a forthcoming album that's going to be released on the 26th.
26th of November, yeah.
Yeah. So
streaming everywhere.
I was exposed to country music growing up because in the 80s. I'm talking about like the 80s country, the 70s and 80s country music. Like Johnny Cash and Anne Murray and Kenny Rogers. Those kind of things. I love them. I did. It's so good to hear this again. I've been listening to the tracks. I know they haven't been released yet, and I plan to play them beginning this coming Saturday, right after Thanksgiving. And congratulations on this album. I know there's 9 tracks. Is it 9? Yeah. So what made you want to do something like this?
Well, I was planning on doing a series of cover records, partially just because I love playing cover songs, and the country one came together first. And the funny thing is, I grew up in Florida, and in South Florida, and I grew up, late 70s, early 80s, and man, country was not cool, and I did not like country. I actually hated country music at that age. But I will point out that what I was exposed to was I remember everybody talking about how great Waylon Jennings was. And then I'd hear these Waylon Jennings albums. Waylon Jennings' best work was not coming out in the early mid 80s. It was not. It was his earlier stuff that was good. Same thing with Willie Nelson. I was hearing All the Girls I Loved Before duets and saying, what the fuck is this? But I hadn't heard Redheaded Stranger, and I hadn't heard other things from that era, or even his really early stuff. And so when I was young, I had this kind of almost hostility to country music. Even though Johnny Cash, everybody liked Johnny Cash. I always liked Johnny Cash.
Yeah,
and
black. Yeah.
and I don't know that I say hostility because there were some country people I liked, but by the time I was probably 15, 16 years old, I started to realize, wow, there's some good stuff in country music. One of the people who, from that time period that I really liked, and I think kind of opened the door to like popular country music could actually be good, is John Anderson, who there's a cover
Yeah,
of
no,
one of his
that's actually a really beautiful cover that you did.
on this record. And he's from Florida. He's from Apopka, Florida. And he wrote a song about the Everglades. And one of the things I do when I go back there to visit is I like to go hiking in the Everglades. I've done it for years. I like going out there by myself. It's wonderful. And every time you go out, it's a little more destroyed. They built another condo. They built another. They're doing that. Florida wants to do it. They want to pave over everything. And hopefully 50 hurricanes will hit them a year. And I don't wish any death on anybody, but boy, they need to get rid of some of those subdivisions they're building in the wrong places. And that song that's what that song's about to me. It doesn't sound angry, but it is angry. Now the other songs you hear on there are Chris Christopherson is somebody I both love as an actor.
And that's perfect for today because it is Sunday morning here. Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. I go, hey, this is a perfect interview for Sunday morning coming down. And that's one of your tracks.
Chris Christopherson was also I admire him politically. Yeah. I admire he's one of those people that really is just a remarkable human being if you go and read about his stuff. So it goes without saying that I was going to do something by him, and that's the logical, obvious song to choose. And people say, why didn't you pick any Johnny Cash? And I'm like, well, that Sunday Morning Coming Down was made famous by Johnny Cash. Everybody's covered that song, but I thought about doing some of his stuff, but nothing really came together. I also Guy Clark. I did his songs because people that don't know country music really well don't know him, and because he's mainly a songwriter. That's what he's known as. But he obviously did his own music as well, and other people would take the songs and record them. And one of his, Jimmy Buffett had a big hit with a Guy Clark song. But he was a fantastic songwriter. Him and Townes Van Zandt, who there's Pancho and Lefty is on the record too, are two of the best songwriters I think that ever walked the earth. So I actually did two Guy Clark songs because I couldn't decide which one of those two I wanted to do, and there were several other Dublin Blues, things like that. And another funny thing is everybody is put. And I have no resent. A lot of times you hear people very resentful about the notion of being called goth. They don't feel like they're goth, and so they're like. But I always liked dark music. I was a kid when goth appeared, and I loved it. It didn't have that name yet. It was kind of like we always thought of it as kind of like punk rock music, but creepier. And so I never felt I really fit in real well with it because my music was a little different from that. But a lot of this country stuff, the thematics of it, it's dark. A lot of these things are not happy-go-lucky songs, and they're not all about pickup trucks. And that's another misconception people have. And my one regret with this record is I didn't do more women songwriters. I only did a Lucinda Williams song. Yeah, and I would have liked to gone back through and tried to do some more songs by women. Although a lot of times, if you're going to do some of the women's songs are written from the perspective of a woman, and it just sounds a little odd for me to be singing.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I know you had a Kickstarter for this, right? And it was recorded at William Faith's studio. And mastered again by the amazing Martin Bowes.
Yeah, if he's available, he mastered this record. He mastered the Portland record, which came out in 2020, and he always does a great job. His music is fantastic. I wish I could record in his studio, but it's prohibitively expensive for me to pop over to England. And William Frankly's the one I wanted to add stuff to these recordings. I wanted to do these recordings and then add to them And William's the one who was adamant that it just stay just me. So this is like an acoustic record. One of the things I think people expected, because once, many years ago on a compilation, one of the first things Thanatos did was kind of a humorous cover of That's the Way I Like It by Casey and the Sunshine Band. And it's done it as a dirge. And so ever after that, every time we did a cover, everybody thought it was a joke, and they never were jokes. Never, not once. Yeah. And it was obvious that they weren't. And so I thought people were going to think that was what this was, or they were going to think I was going to do Sisters of Mercy versions of country music. And that is also not what this is. These are my versions of these songs acoustic. And I think whenever I do something, it's going to be a little dark. It's going to, there's going to be some
I see that
dark mood in the song.
Yeah, and I see that dark. It's dark, you know. It's country music covers, but it's beautiful. I did this. It's beautiful. Yeah, you did a great job. And I know there's a video also for some the John Anderson cover. Is that right? Yep. So tell us about that video.
Seminole Wind. That is Stacey Picard in England, who is a friend with Michelle Rowland, who's doing publicity for this record.
Yeah, big shout out to Michelle at UTM Music Group.
Yeah, and Stacey, Michelle got me in touch with him. We kicked it back and forth, and he had mentioned that he was doing a lot of kind of cloud videos and stuff, and he sent me some samples of them. And honestly, when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. You know, but I think it works really well, and I think it's appropriate to the content of the song, I think, as well. And it's kind of almost abstract in that it's a song about the environment, basically. Another thing there, you got a country guy in the late '80s writing a song about the environment, which is like, you know, people don't think that happened very often, and of course it did. But you know, so it is appropriate. The clouds are appropriate, but it's almost meditative. I thought he did a lovely job, and I can't say enough nice stuff about him.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I like the video. I like the song. It goes well. It flows right. And this is I know you had something last night, right? Was it yesterday? You did a live acoustic set. I know.
We did a live streaming show on Twitch at William Face 13 Studios here in Chicago. And it's funny, when I play live acoustic solo, I always tell everybody, and they always go, "Oh no, that's not true," and it is true. This is true. What I'm about to tell you is the truth. I can come out and play great, and it'll be fun and great. And sometimes I talk too much, and sometimes I don't say anything, but I can do it well. But if something goes wrong, I get flustered, and it just goes off the rails, and I'll fuck up everything, and and I've done it a few times, and I'm always a little nervous about playing live. Well, I had trouble getting over to William's house. I won't recall the whole effort, but it was like getting the 1.5 miles to his house last night was a nightmare. And then we get there, we're playing the first song, and Sarah, his wife Sarah, Scary Lady Sarah, comes running downstairs and says, "There are no vocals. There are no vocals on the song." And we stop. We're farting around, and William never did figure out what was wrong. And he's like, I have no idea. And I'm sure he will figure out at some point. But it's just one of those things that happens. And it happens whether you're playing live in front of people or live wherever. It's just stuff can go wrong. And you're supposed to be professional and not get flustered. Well, I got a little flustered. And so a couple songs in, I'm like messing the songs up and everything. It was supposed to be an hour-long set. It wound up being 2 hours because people were typing in like, "Can you play Goddamn the Sun?" which I had no intention of playing. And I said, if William can print out the lyrics, I'll play it for you, because I couldn't remember the lyrics. So I played that. People were saying, "You play some David Bowie songs." And it just so happened I had some music for David Bowie songs with me, so I played a couple of those. And, you know, I wasn't going to play the Highwayman song, but it suddenly got dark in here. Hold on.
Hold on.
Can you edit this out?
uh, it's good. I mean,
Well,
it's not dark. Yeah, no, it's good.
okay.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so
I was gonna ask you.
I mean, I was rambling on there, but it was a lot of fun to play that show. I've never done a stream before. It didn't get a ton of people listening, but my son was telling me, well, usually people get 5 people on their first Twitch stream, so you did better than most people. So but it was fun. I would love to do it again. There just have to be a reason for me to do it again.
Yeah. So this album is coming out the 26th. It's called Covered Country. That's the name of the album on Projekt, on the Projekt label, which is projekt.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think that, yeah. And then that's where you can find it. And then you also have a website, Thanatos.biz.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then if people wanted to find your music, how is there any other website you want to give out?
The Bandcamp, and I don't remember the thing, but if you look up Thanatos Projekt with Project with a K on Bandcamp, it comes up, and pretty much all the records are up. Covered Country, I don't think I'm going to put up there, but everything else is up there, as well as a lot of live music. There's a lot of live music from, there's a couple acoustic things with me, but there's also from the 90s playing with William Tucker and Eric Paulson. And there's some other shows I did. We did these kind of reunion shows because I had lived in Florida for a long time. And I came back up here and did some shows. So there's a lot of live stuff on there too, and some odds and ends here and there. I find old songs that I recorded and I forgot about, and I'll put them up there. So
yeah. Well, congratulations on this album. I think it's wonderful, and thank you for coming on. Anything else you want to mention? Anything happening in the future?
Well, the only thing that I mentioned is in a larger context, these cover records, the idea, it didn't start out, let's do a covered country. It was like, let's do a bunch of covers and let's do a bunch of cover records. And so I can't swear to you how this is going to go, but I already have in my head several other cover records that are going to be recorded. And I think the next one is going to be covered 70s.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like what do you have any artists in mind? Which
I have some. I have some songs I'm working on. I'm working on a kind of acoustic finger picking version of Elton John's Daniel, where I'm trying to pick Sam really wants me to do an Andy Gibb song, but I just can't.
Yeah, that's disco. That's disco.
You gotta do disco. One I like. But we might do. I mean, I know that other people, Dave Grohl and people have done Bee Gees songs, but I might do a Bee Gees song. But there's some other songs that are disco era songs that I might do as well. I'm also going to do. I have a very good acoustic version, believe it or not, of "Walk on the Wild Side" too.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
So there's that, and then I'm also probably going to do. I'm thinking of doing a cover song that's all women, that were written by women or originally recorded by women, and I right now I only have one song for that. I don't know if I should say it because maybe I'll spoil the surprise, but I'll just say it's a Florence and the Machine song. So.
Oh, okay. One of my favorite disco artists of all time is Alec Constantinos of Love and Kisses, and I think I don't know if you ever heard of him, but there's a lot of songs that you can cover because he is just amazing, and he has some ballads, some really beautiful ballads, and the other one I really like is Madeleine Kane. She's a woman. She's a disco artist. Amazing ballad songs. I don't know. I mean, I think disco is.
The disco era is one of those things that when I was a kid, it was like disco sucked. And the truth is that later I realized, disco is some of a lot of that music. Sure, it's not necessarily particularly intellectual, but the production on those records, anybody who does music, they're fabulous. And when William Parker and I were recording Blisters, we would record for a long time and we would take breaks and record. And the breaks would usually wind up with me becoming incapacitated and unable to sing. And then, but we would listen to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack and stuff from that era. And I don't want to get too, because it's not really going to be a acoustic disco cover record, but there will definitely be some songs like that, and there might be some Gilbert O'Sullivan in there too. There might
Oh,
be
I love that. I love it. I'm a big fan of the 70s, so you got me there.
Roger Whittaker. I'm a big Roger Whittaker
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And another favorite of mine is what's the name of that guy? The Year of the Cat.
Oh, there's one I'm forgetting. 100% for sure, I am doing a cover of Year of the Cat. It's Al Stewart.
Yes. Oh, please. Oh my God. Okay, you got me. You got me there. You got me. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed speaking with you and having you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Okay, one moment. I'm gonna cut this off. Just don't hang up yet. Okay, 1 second.